So good morning, everybody. Monday morning, as we know, it's just after the weekend. My name's Chris from Trotec Laser UK. This is our first Ruby webinar, where we'll just run through some Ruby features and also some advanced features of our new software that's been with us for around about 2 years now. So like I said, my name's Chris. I'm the area manager for the north of England and Scotland. And this is Alex. Alex is our applications engineer. And he'll deal with some special projects as well as more complicated solutions as well in the UK.
Yeah, and I'll be monitoring the comments throughout this. So if you do already use Ruby or you have any questions, we will have a question answer session at the end. And if you just have questions on any of the things that we're running through, do ask away in the comments and we can kind of cover those as we go. So I guess maybe a first question for anyone that's watching is, what laser software are you using at the moment? And also what drawing software are you? So it's always interesting to know what bit of software are you using at the moment to actually generate your artwork.
Yeah, so in the past, we've predominantly used CorelDRAW, especially here in the UK, where we've, in our previous software, Job Control, we've created our design in Job Control. We file print to Job Control. Now, if we take a CorelDRAW file, we can input that in. I've done a few examples here in Ruby, or me and Alex have. We can use a lot of various different files. So we'll run through that now. The goal of today is to just run through a quick basic workflow overview, demonstrate Ruby's features that can improve efficiency of running your laser, and showcase some of the key features of Ruby. There's lots of features in every software, and we can't go all of them today. However, again, ask a question and we can answer them through there. So what features does Ruby provide? Remote access over a local network, where we can log in to everyone can have a username under the user management feature, and we can log in to Ruby and create our own designs somewhere in a business. As long as it's got the same Wi-Fi network, we can create a lot of diagrams or jobs from there. We can do imaging adjustments, multiple engraving resolutions in a single file, and we do have an example of this. We'll run through the lid camera view on the Speedy 400 and 360 run on Ruby machines. Quite a great feature that we've had implemented. Bitmap tracing, processing dynamic data, so for items such as serialization. Profile import feature. It's compatible with our Galvo systems now, and much more.
Yeah, I think that's one of the key things is with Ruby, it's something where we're developing it all the time. So as we've already shown, there's quite a lot of features there already, but it really is going to start to gain traction. We're going to be adding more and more as we go. So this kind of webinars and the other information is going to be something we obviously have to continually deliver and obviously train all of our customers with.
So today's focus, Ruby and networking. This is one feature I'd like to show. So if you just bear me a second, I'll share my screen. Here we go. Share screen.
And we've got one comment here as well about a preference at the moment for Job Control compared to Ruby and using both CorelDRAW and Illustrator. So again, yep, that's two bits of software that we commonly see for designing. Hopefully, as time goes on, we'll be able to convert you over to Ruby and show you some of the great features that it does have. But again, I would be interested if there's any key feature you feel maybe is missing or kind of something that you feel stopping you fully work with Ruby at the moment. And yeah, let's start having a look at the networking.
So my screen should be shared now. So I've shared my screen. I'm currently standing next to our Speedy 400 machine, running the computer that runs next to that one. However, I've opened up another browser tab. I've logged into our Speedy 300 Flex, which is to the right of me. And I've used that if we go into Ruby user management system, where we have a main login. So in this case, in the UK, we've got Showroom UK. And I've created my own login. So you can see I've got a login, and also James, our marketing assistant, has got his own login as well. So you can create a lot of usernames here. I've got my own login, so I've logged in remotely. We can press remote access here. We copy the certificate and the Ruby access, the browser URL. So we download the certificate. If you trust certificate. What we get is the not secure turned into secure, and then we download or we bookmark the correct the link for our window or browser page. So we can log into Ruby here where I can do exactly what you would do normally in Ruby. So I can go through here, I can add a job, so we can see here, first of all, sorry, that job has been created by our showroom UK user. I can create a job, put it in the job queue or the design queue, and it will show that it's been created by myself. This gives us a great advantage so that the operator can be using the machine while someone else can be designing a file or maybe creating some data or something else in the background while that machine's actually being used. So we can kind of do nearly two things at once, which before we don't have any licensing fees. We didn't anyway with job control, but we don't need to install critically. We don't need to install any software onto the PC. We use it as a browser.
Yeah.
I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, I was just going to say the main thing for this is you just basically need to be on your same network as the machine itself. So anywhere within the business that you're on that same network, then you can access straight into the Ruby software for the machine. Yeah.
Again, I might be sitting away from the PC. I might have it on my Mac because again, we can run that on a Mac. It's just a browser, and we can design a file or maybe get some images in, etc. All the way from not having to stand next to the machine. However, if we're running say a Speedy 300, which doesn't have a run on Ruby inside, we do need the PC to be on. The run on Ruby machines just need the machine turned on, and then we have access to it. So hopefully that makes sense there. Let me just close that down, and we can continue on.
Yeah, so I'm sure as probably quite a lot of our customers already know, the machines aren't also always in the nicest of environments. Quite often they'll be on a workshop floor or in a part of the warehouse or the building where maybe it's not, quite as nice as being sat in the office. So again, it's just really nice to be able to get all your artwork done, queued up into Ruby, and then you can just go down to the machine and just focus purely on getting your jobs produced.
Yeah. Next thing is using profiles to reduce setup time. We'll run through a couple of examples here. So if I just share my next screen. So we can create a profile at any point by using the three lines on the side, profiles, and here we can pick a material that we've created or that's in the database. It's ideal for using jigs, but we're going to run through this in a bit. I just wanted to touch upon it just for the time being. But we can create a profile so a user can very easily create a piece of artwork and drag and drop it over, so we're not having to run through all the steps previously. So we wanted to run through different engraving resolutions in one file, and we have a great example of a file that we've created here, this particular file here. So here we have a red cut line, blue I'd like to score or use a low power cut, and then the black I'm going to fully engrave. So this starts all the way from the beginning of setting the material correct. So we have here the three lines. If we go to materials, and I have already set this up. However, I will show you how to do that. So when we create a new material, we can call it whatever we want here, and we can add in already it's got an engrave and a cut. However, we can also add in a feature for that, add an effect to a material. We've got a couple of examples here: engrave dark, engrave detail. However, we can add our own. So for example, engrave blue, we select the engrave and press OK, and we can allocate a color to that, or we can add another effect such as cut purple, select the cut, and we can select that as a purple. Again, we can move the jobs up or down in whichever order you wish to be wanting to process the material in. Engrave will always come first and then a cut. Yep. In this case, we're going to use the one I've preset up. So going back to the diagram, we had a red cut line. we had a blue score, and we had a black engrave. The first thing that we want to do is the black engrave. We want to run a blue cut line or a score line. So here we'll have a power and a speed allocated to that. So it's very, very light, because again, we just want to mark the material. In this case, I'm going to use a white red troll layers, and then we want to cut that out in the red cut line.
Yeah, so this is just really to help anyone who's, I guess, a little bit new to laser processing, just to understand obviously the basic color mapping, also just so you can see, in terms of the workflow of color mapping, it's very similar to job control. The big difference here is that we no longer require an RGB color palette. So we can just use other CMYK color profiles, and also it doesn't rely anymore on a line thickness. So you don't have to worry about any of the issues that you might have had of needing to set an artwork to a hairline. It could be any thickness. It will essentially trace the center line of that line. So this really gets rid of a few niggles that we used to have with some of our older software solutions. It means it's a lot more streamlined. And again, on the right hand side, you can see with Chris's job here, you have all of the colors there. So if you bring a job in and maybe the colors don't quite match, it's very easy to then just take the color and then just recolor it to make sure it matches the profile for your material setting. So this is something where previously you'd have to go back to your drawing software or back to the drawing department and get them to edit it. Whereas now it's very easy to make a quick change or a quick check of the job before you run it on your machine.
Yeah, exactly. And one of the greatest features is we're not having to limit ourselves to a specific, say if it was a cut line in CorelDRAW, we had it set as a hairline. In Adobe Illustrator, I think it was 0.01 or 0.05. Line width here, it is just a color. It'll take the color and you give it an action and it recognizes that. So let's create that job. So here the job's been created and put on our bed. So this view here gives us the live feedback of our overhead camera, our VDP system. This is an additional system to the our Speedy 360 and our 400. We have two cameras available. We have the vision camera, which is for print and cut applications, and here we have the overhead camera for easy application of we can see the whole bed and we can move the artwork to where we want the artwork to be. We do still have our red dot pointer, so when we move our laser head, we can see the crosshair that moves as well. So we can drag and drop. For example, I want to put the diagram there. I want to drag and drop and snap to our crosshair. We can snap to the four corners and also the center to make things alignment, very easy. However, also we do have the vision camera on here, where if we move the axis out the way, we can actually zoom in on our material and we can place that, wherever we want it to be. Great for items such as, we'll show you in a bit, we have a very obscure item, but if we had let's say a cut tree trunk for somebody that we wanted to engrave on, that's not perfectly circle, then we can align a text to that, and just helps us out a little bit more. So here, like I said, I've got our diagram where we want it. We want to engrave, we want to score, and we want to cut. So I'll just choose my correct material. Again, we've got engrave, a blue, and a cut. Just zoom out there, and we will push that to the laser. So once we're ready, we'll choose our material, we'll push that to the laser, and then I will share my screen so we can see inside the cabinet. Settings, that one there. Okay. We transferred the job over to the Run on Ruby machine, and we'll press go.
So while the machine's starting up the extraction, you can see it's obviously coming across to the engraving. So typically we always engrave first, because when we cut, the part can move a little bit, and that can result in obviously some misalignment if the part moves at all. In this case though, it probably wouldn't be an issue anyway, just because Chris has got the bed all properly set up for the extraction system. So everything that isn't being used is all blocked off. That means that all of the extraction is going to focus around the cut line, pull the fume away really quickly, and that means that again there'll be less debris and less cleaning on the actual part itself. So obviously if you're just doing a one-off, maybe it's not so easy, but if you're really setting up to do any kind of batch work, it really is worth making sure that your extraction is set up properly. It's probably one of the most important things after the actual laser system itself is to make sure you have properly set up extraction.
Exactly right, and it's one of those things that we do talk about quite often. You can never overspec extraction. The more we have, the better. It really does help with a cut and help the material stick down. So hopefully you'll be able to see on the camera, we've processed that. Can you see that, Alex?
Yeah, it's got nice and clear.
Yeah,
So
again, we've got
only a little bit of dust, but other than that, it looks really quite clean.
Yeah, again, with troll layers, it's worth giving it a quick wipe with maybe some soapy water or, you know, another sort of material as well. So I'm just going to pop that back in because there is another feature that I'd like to show within Ruby as we're doing simple cut lines here. If I just pop back to my prepare screen and I'll just select the correct job. So one of the great features of Ruby is we can select, or one of the disadvantages of using another software, for example, we have here a cut line, and if we were to copy and paste our diagram back to back without leaving a gap, what will happen is the laser will cut effectively this line twice. Within Ruby, we can select it to have to skip overlapping cut lines. So within this artwork here, the laser will only cut this line here once, which is great for sheet wastage, and also it's less design work because before we would have to design it with one cut line. So we can see that example if we press go here. I'll just zoom out. So my screen's here now.
Part, Chris, might still be on the old location, so you might need to just move those across.
I'll just highlight them across and just move them across here. That's right, Alex.
And the other thing where we really see this is, especially if you have to work with customers' artwork. So quite often, you know, if you don't control the whole workflow and process, you're working with drawings from a customer, there might be double lines, there might be hidden lines, especially a lot of CAD software. It's all set up to work in layers. And quite often people just don't realize that there's hidden layers that are stacked on top of each other. So having this function enabled just takes away all of those headaches.
Yeah, and we can do that within our settings here. So we can see that under settings, overlapping lines, detection is full. We can have it on lines only, or we can have it on full. My default is just on full. So I just popped back to that camera. So we should be able to see that processing.
So just while we wait for this to load up, let's go through a couple more comments. Again, we've got a mixture of job control and Ruby. So it's definitely seems to be a common thing for people to use both. And also another comment here about the use of macros. So yeah, it's a nice comment here from Roland that a lot of drawing software actually has macro or kind of in Illustrator, it's called action capability. So this is where you can pre-record a set of tasks and then easily just run them with the click of a button. So in this example, he's saying he's got one that in CorelDRAW takes the selection, turns it into a PDF and drops it into a hot folder, which then puts it straight into the job of Ruby. So again, that's a really nice function to do that. So
that is a very good feature.
Doing the score lines. And there we go. No material wastage there, and just a nice single cut line, even though we had the two paths stacked on top of each other. Just got another question here as well. Is there a button that allows us to remove the double lines? So yes, well, hopefully Chris might be able to show that in a second. It's either used in the base defaults or in the top right of the screen itself.
Yes, my screen was zoomed in there for some reason, so there's two ways of doing it. We can select it here as well. Hopefully you'll be able to see that, or in the settings that I also mentioned before. So again, can see that. We've cut that off there, and both together. Normally when we cut a bit of trolleys and there's 2 lines to it, you can get a little bit of a deviation on the cut, again using skip overlapping lines. That takes that away from there, makes that life a lot easier, and the job goes quicker, and we get less material wastage. So next, I just want to run through, let's have a look now. So I think, should we do the profiles bit, Alex, because we do have a good example for that?
Yeah, so I'll just give a bit of intro. So at the moment, I guess we've shown you, you're probably used to this already if you're a familiar laser user, but using color mapping, we've just demonstrated the overlapping lines feature. And the next one we're going to look at is something called profiles. So profiles is all about, again, automating your workflow. And that could be either just to speed things up, but it can also be just to remove error. So if you've got an operator who maybe isn't as used to using Ruby and maybe just isn't as used to using the laser, and you just want them to be able to have an easier workflow, it's going to take the design, the drawing, and we can have it go from there straight to the queue. So you're not relying on them checking the artwork or putting the job in the right place or any of the settings. We can kind of automate this process.
Yeah, so let me just grab a little bit of a different material just to help us with that. So as Alex mentioned, we can automate that, and we can automate it to compensate for a jig. So I'll just use a little bit of plywood.
So I've just seen again in the comments about double cut lines. So it won't automatically be turned on if you don't have it set in your default settings to automatically be on. So normally the double cut lines feature will be turned off, but you can go into your settings and then turn that on, or you can manually turn it on for each job. So just check that before you run the job. That might be why you still saw some double cutting.
Yeah, so just to run through that again, can you see my screen, Alex?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, so that is under settings, user preferences, overlapping cut lines detection type. Again, there's off, lines only, so again just straight lines, or full for everything. So that is the default. If we select this setting here, it will come up in the top right hand corner that we have to press save. So we'll go to full and just save that, and that is it preset. So let's have a look at this, the profiles here. So we did create one, however we'll create one again. In this case, I would like the design to go in a specific place. So if we pop to our main screen here, and I'll just move my laser head over here. I'll focus that in a second using our sonic autofocus. So in the bottom right hand corner, for some reason my screen is, there we go, is that better? Just need to unzoom the screen, maybe it's our screen sharing. I'll tell you what we'll do.
Always some fun technical difficulties.
It wouldn't be a Monday morning without it, Alex. So let's just go back to here, settings.
So obviously in the example we're going to show you in a minute, it's not really as applicable to use profiles just because we're just doing a little one-off job. But this really works nicely if you jig your material, so you'll know the material is always going to be in the same place. If you're personalizing products, so again, you're going to be able to load those products into the same place each time you want the artwork to appear in the right position. And also, maybe you just want to skip a few of the extra steps and just be able to check the artwork as well. You can have it so it doesn't send straight to the queue, but it just goes to the actual job section before.
That's better. Okay, so here I'm just going to go to my prepare screen. It'll just refresh because I did close it down and pick it up. So if I wanted my artwork to start here, I would write down the X and the Y. So here we have 216 by 161. We won't get too accurate on this occasion. So if we pop into our profiles, so X is 216 and what was it, Alex, 131?
I think so. You have to double check.
We'll double check. So that's the location that we want it. For example, We can rotate the diagram if needed to be, and we can change the scaling as well. We can save it as a design, and we can save it as a job. I'm going to use a particular material setting that I had pre-set up. So I'll select it there. And if I just say save, I'm just going to just check them on the 216 by 131, 161. There we go. So let's just go back into there.
So this is all about processing all of the main parameters that you want for the job. So we've got the positioning, the material, and also if you wanted to rotate the artwork for any reason.
Yeah, so we've got our diagram or our artwork that we've created. We can click on that. We can see that. So what we want to happen is the black to engrave at a different resolution than our blue. So again, how we've set that up is if we pop to our materials and I click on my plywood. So here I want the blue to go first because that's our deeper engraving. So I'm going to run that at 250 DPI, and the black, I'm going to run that in the background at 333 dpi. So that will all process that in one job. Whereas if we take job control, for example, we had to file print as the resolution that we wanted. We couldn't use two different types or two different colors to do two different resolutions. This gives the ability for us to create a job much quicker, depending on the quality of the product that we want out of it. So again,
yeah. So
blue,
for example, this might be you've got a background pattern, so you can run that maybe a bit of a lower resolution, maybe a bit out of focus, and then get nice high speed, and then maybe you've got some more intricate text, and again, then you could utilize the higher precision and higher resolution in that one job.
Exactly. So here we are. If we go back to our manage screen and we click on profiles, we can see there we've created a profile. We can check that by clicking on it. We've got the X and Y preset up back here. What I'll do is I'll just share my screen so people can see this. So what we're going to do is drag and drop the job that we want into that job queue, and it goes straight into the job queue on the Run on Ruby machine. We can see that in here. It's straight there, and it's at the location we've asked it to be at. If I just shut the lid and I'll share my screen, I'll change my camera. Let's go. So I've just pressed go on the Run on Ruby machine here. So again, it's going to do the blue first, then the black, and then it's cut line. Okay, so we have pre-worked on these settings. So we have getting a generic setting for plywood. Here I've got a Speedy 400, 120 watts. And we're doing the blue engrave at 100, 100. The black, which is our bigger text, at 180% speed. Because we're running less resolution, so we just have to slow that down slightly enough just to get a bit of depth and a bit of color onto our material.
So just looking through the comments again, we've got a comment about the rotation with profile feature, doing it from the top left corner, and that means it can obviously, I guess, rotate not how you expect. I've not actually experimented with trying to change the rotation position using profile, so that'd be something I'd have to look at and see if we've got a solution for you.
With having the bed covered off here, the plywood, it was slightly warped. The extraction that we've cut out here, just to reiterate on extraction, it's holding the plywood down, it's pulling it down, so we get a perfectly flat face when we engrave that. If we didn't have the extraction covered off, we would have a little bit of a warped, the plywood will be slightly warped, kind of a wood product. This is one of the things we have to deal with. But again, we can never underestimate extraction. I always have an overrun set on the showroom machines in the showroom. What I mean by that is I have it preset so that before any job starts, I have it preset that it starts the extraction unit 5 seconds before the job starts, and it overruns by 30 seconds. So hopefully that is finished. There we go. Is that visible on camera, Alex?
Yeah, so it's good. You can see we've got that nice high speed backing, and then we've also got a different setting there for the text.
Any questions on that?
No, I don't think so. I think we're looking good. We can continue on to our next Ruby feature.
Okay. So the next thing I'd like to look at is our VDP camera. So what we're going to do here is we're going to add a product. I've just bought a wooden spatula from Asda. We'll clear the bed and we will show exactly what we're going to do with that. Like I said, this is an add-on for the Speedy 400 and Speedy 360 where we can see with all in the bed, live bed. So let me just turn that on there. So we can see there I've placed this in. If we just put it here out of kilter. I want to put our design work. We can put anything. I'll shut the lid so we get a bit more accurate. I just want to create a piece of artwork and put it where I want to put it without using the red dot pointer. So what we can do is if I click on a job that's already been done and I zoom in, we can see that piece of artwork. What we can do is we can make that bigger. We can make it smaller just so it fits in exactly where we want it to be. Now this product is slightly curved because it is wooden. So I'll use the Sonic autofocus on and the tag always gets in the way. Speedy 400, actually, well, let me just pull the tag off because we'll use the tag for another feature that we have in a second.
And again, while we've got this session running, if anyone's got any application questions at all, please feel free to ask, and we'll answer those again throughout or at the end.
So I have moved that. So let's zoom back in. Just move the head out of the way. And we'll drag and drop and we'll put that there. Make that a little bit smaller. So I'll use our plywood setting because this is a plywood wooden spatula. So hopefully everyone can see that we placed that where we want to place it using the VDP camera rather than our red dot pointer or having to trace it or create a jig for this. We've eyeballed it to be in the middle. Let's push that in the job queue. I'll change my camera view over and I'll move the camera physically. Can we see that, Alex? Yeah?
Yep.
Is that okay? Can we see that?
Yeah, that's fine.
So let's press go.
Okay, so while that's working away, just check through the comments. We've got a comment here about somebody has an R500 and they've just asked, is there a way they can have a camera addition to that system? Unfortunately, the lid camera isn't an option on that. So for you, the best method is going to be to use like more of the traditional way of just jigging the parts. So having a base material, cutting out the profile. You'll quite often find though with something like this wooden part, the size and shape will actually vary just due to the tolerances of manufacturing. So sometimes you will have to have a bit of extra space on that jig itself just to make sure that you can consistently fit the part into there. But yeah, for that particular model, it's only on the Speedy 400 and the Speedy 360 where we have the lid camera options.
Yeah, one of the great advantages as well, if we're on my screen here, I can also now go into Ruby in job control. Once the job was on the bed, that was it. We then had to go back into artwork to change something. Here, Harriet's got her own spatula. We can then go and update the job. We can then edit the artwork. Update our job. Very quick and easy, and we can change, so we can add another one if we wish. We can open that up, so just to show people on the camera there, That's where we placed it. Can you see that, Alex? Is that all right?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
No,
okay. So again, we can change that. We can change the name. And we can put another one in. Other way around. And then again, same focal height. We close the lid. And we can drag and drop that to the exact point we want it. Push to laser. And then press go.
Yeah, so just while this one's running, another comment about vision systems. What we're showing you at the moment is the lid camera. Sometimes it can maybe be a little bit confusing. We also have the print and cut camera. So that's where you'd have a camera fitted to the head, and that's for picking up on pre-printed registration marks. So that's available across a wider range of our machines. It doesn't allow you to do the kind of overview within the Ruby software positioning, but it does mean if you work with any printers, typically it tends to be a lot of UV printers for the laser processor, so that you can print directly to substrates such as acrylics and woods. With that system, then you have the camera on the head, picks up the pre-printed registration marks, and then can scale all of the artwork and the positioning to make sure you've got a good cut position to the print.
Yes, but we've had that for a long time now. It's a very, very useful part of the machines, and it's quite necessary in some print and cut applications. So there's that finished there. Again, we've created two very, very easily. And we can, again, if you wish, we can update that job, change the name. Great for personalization if we're running names on the fly. However, also we do have a great feature coming up in a second for products that have a barcode. We can add a barcode to. So if we have a look there, we've got a barcode tag.
Just let me just swap the camera.
Okay.
So yeah, so if you want to show.
So we have a great feature. We can use that barcode on that material for us, allow us to search for a job or just simply a design. So if we pop into our job here, I'll just take that off because that was an example. So we've created our job in this case. We've run that job. We're happy with the test. I've purchased a USB scanner. It was about 20 quid. So if we click here, actually, I'll tell you what, I'll show my screen. It'll be a bit easier. Settings, and I'll just change the camera. So there's our Speedy 400. So here's our spatula, wireless USB, barcode scanner. You can buy more expensive ones which have QR code readers, etc. However, this is a very basic one. And if we just scan turn it on first, if we scan the barcode while having the screen set as the new product tag here, let's just put that on. There we go. So we can add that tag in there. That's our barcode. So we can save that. So we save that as a job. So let's just rename that. Barcode sample in this case. Let's just save that. So if we're in our management screen here, we click on our jobs, and someone wanted to repeat that job that we've already created, and you've got a product that you want to add the same logo to or anything like that, they can very simply click on the search item here, pick up our barcode scanner and search for the job, and it'll bring up, I've created one test one here, for example, and then the barcode sample that I did before. It's picked up the correct job. If we click on that there, it's picked up the correct job and the correct material setting as well. So that can be a great feature for people who have got many different products within the business. Once we've taken the time to set it up correctly, the operator can very quickly go to a job and find the correct part by using our barcode scanner without having to trail through loads of settings from there.
Yeah, I think that's the key thing. As soon as you start, especially if you have something where you have the same kind of design applied to a product, Then again, you can have your order management system either use the product's barcode itself, or you can have your order management system generate a barcode that will then allow your operator to very quickly and easily load up exactly the right job. Or, for example, in this case, you could scan it and maybe you have 3 or 4 designs, but it's just a nice, easy way to control your designs and make them a lot easier to navigate by using the tags function on the jobs.
I mean, you don't have to use a barcode scanner. You can tag it to anything you wish. If you wanted to call it spatula, then the operator can type in spatula there. That was just an example of how we can use a barcode scanner to make things a little bit quicker. Okay, so on to the next one. So what we've done is we've created a diagram here just to show how we can use what we call dynamic data. Now, I don't know, Alex, if you've got an example of a spreadsheet there that we've quickly knocked up. What we can do is we can add a CSV file to Ruby and add multiple dynamic datas to our artwork.
Yeah, 1 minute. Let me just. So typically, you might use a something. Normally, it tends to be Excel is the default. And what we can do is in our Excel document. Let me just get this ready for you.
This is a great feature, as before we had to use an alternative piece of software.
Okay, so in here, hopefully you can see our document, and generally what you'd have is you'd have a column for every bit of variable data. So the idea behind this is removing any of the kind of more manual input tasks into the actual design software itself. So you're going to have all of your data here in the columns. Generally, you'd have the first row as your header. So whether that's a serial number header or a date or whatever you want on there. In this example, Chris is going to run through, we've just got a single column of data. And then from this point in Excel, you just need to make sure the file is saved as a .csv file in order to feed it into the Ruby software.
So I'm just going to use a bit of troll layers here to show this example. Okay. So we have our diagram, part number in this case, and we want to add the dynamic data, variable data to this. So this little button up here is add dynamic data. It is a beta at the moment. It was released in Ruby 2.8, 2.7 maybe. It will become a full feature later down the line, maybe in the next update. However, it seems to work from what I've used it for every single time. So how we do that, is we go back to our manage screen, data sources. We can then import the file that we wish to choose or drag and drop it in. This case here, dog tag number CSV file is what Alex created before. So we have our CSV file in the queue. Pop to our design and we click add dynamic data. We click on the box and it's only picked up one CSV file. So if we click on that one, then it will give us a list of how many options we have. If you have maybe date, part number, etc., it'll give us them options. Here we only have one. So we'll add the selected one and we'll just resize that. I'm going to make this bigger anyway because it's quite small.
Yeah, so what Chris is setting up now is essentially it's like a text boxed area that's allowable for the actual dynamic data itself. So the idea behind this is that we have a fixed width of the actual text space available. And then that way, even if you choose to make the have data that has variable lengths, so say it's not always going to be exactly the same number of characters, it will still be constrained within the box itself, so it will stop it from ever exiting out of that box.
Yes, great feature. So once we've located that where we want to put it, we will create our job.
Yeah.
And in this case, I'm just going to use part of the trolleys, which I haven't used before. So I'm just going to drag and drop it and put it there. Once we have our location set, so we're using our material wisely, we click dynamic data here, and we can see there, I probably just need to reduce the size of that a little bit, but we can do that in a second. So what we need to do is, we've got dog tag numbers as the CSV file, and we've only got the part number selected. So we update the data bindings as so. So we can then maybe put in, if we use our array function, let's just have that update our data bindings. And if we go to push to laser, we can see there that it's got each one as a different number as per our spreadsheet. It has created a couple of pages because I've only, Alex selected, there was 59 different rows, but in this case, I only wanted 12 just to show as an example. So it does create a couple of other pages because we've got that amount of data in there.
Obviously, we're just doing only a few tags here, but it's a really powerful tool. If you say you've got a standard sheet size 600 by 300 and you've got enough tags though that you need to run, that's going to take 5 or 6 sheets, it's just going to do all of that setup work for you, automatically have them all here, so it'll give you the pages for each sheet. So it just makes life a lot easier. So Chris, we've actually got some questions on here if you want to go back a step.
Okay.
A couple of people wanting to be taken through the array function. So I don't know if you want to just set up another simple shape or job, and you can just do a little bit about the array function and the different kind of spacing options and stuff that we have within that.
Okay, yeah, so if we just use that design, for example, we create that job. Again, we can put it anywhere on the bed. If we just turn the camera off for this example, it will always obviously go in the top left-hand corner. So what we can do is, if we wanted a bed size full of these particular labels, we can click on our array function here. That's that little tick box there. And we can use that there. And we can fill the whole bed up or the sheet up. In this case of our labels. What we can do also is, if we say we just wanted 25 and we wanted it by row, it will also select by row or by column, or we can ask it to fill as well. We can create any space in here. So let's say 2.5 mil by 2.5, 2.5. Just press fill again. So then if it creates an offset between each one. However, with the great feature of Ruby having the overlapping line set to full, we can actually have them really batched up together and get more sheet yield from our material. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, I think the thing I would say is, it's very easy. It's just those 4 little squares once you've got your job selected on the screen. And
I'll just run that job, Alex, while we're talking about that, just with the different part numbers on.
And the other thing you can do as well is you can control the offset of each row. So if you're working with a shape like a circle, you can have a different offset on each row to really help try and nest those in and make best use of your material that you've got on your bed as well.
Yeah, so we just created a circle there, random size, create the job, and let's just say if we wanted that amount there, but we wanted a horizontal spacing of 4 mil, it will do that for us. As we can see, we lose some on the right hand corner, and 4 mil again, update. Very, very quick and easy, whereas before we had to use, I used CorelDRAW to create that that function for us. Now we're doing it all within our software in a couple of clicks. Any questions? Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah, I think that's answered hopefully everyone's questions so far.
I think Katie's asked as well, what machines have the head camera? That's the overhead camera. So that at the moment is our Speedy 400 run on Ruby and our Speedy 360 run on Ruby as well. Bad example here is what I didn't do was when I sent through this job here, I didn't select any material. that's because we were talking, Alex.
Just put some extra mileage on the head.
Yeah. So we'll stop that, and we'll just prove the point that this does work. Let's just go back to here. So
again, if you've got any other workflow questions, if you want to ask those in the comments, and then we can see if we can give some advice on those. While Chris is doing this, I'm just going to give one other thing that sometimes people miss. So on the left-hand side of the screen where Chris is working at the moment, you've got designs and jobs. So you can access them both on this prepare screen, but it is possible, at the moment we've got the jobs tab open. It is possible to go back to the design tab. And then on the design tab, that allows you then to bring in multiple different designs onto one bed. So that's how you would do that, because sometimes you might have 5 or 6 drawings that you want to put onto one sheet. And if you're not preparing that in your drawing software, then you can do that here within Ruby as well.
Yeah, I mean, one of the features as well for this dynamic data is not just only making labels. I found it very useful for customizing some glasses. For someone might have some artwork and have a name, have the names in a CSV file, and we can get the Rotary to create individual jobs. So if you had 30 names, instead of having to go back into, so once we've got here, for example, if we had one job on the screen, we can update the job, and we can put in some text, you know, and whatever name, and then go back into the diagram, update the job. So for example, on the Rotary, like we're saying, we can have it as a CSV file with all them types of names in. What you'll get in our screen here is a load of jobs, and after every time one job is produced, it deletes the job. If we have this button here clicked, so then you know that you've done 1 name, 2 name, 3 name, etc., and it just makes the personalization a lot easier as well.
So we're coming up to the cutting now. So with this Trolleys material, if you have used it, it's just a thin micro surface for top layer. The biggest common mistake I see is people just essentially engraving it with too much power, whereas you really only need to use just enough power just to take off that. I think it's about 0.2 millimeter top surface. And then that way, again, you're just reducing the amount of cleaning that you need to do with your part. And again, here it looks like Chris has got obviously the overlapping cut lines feature turned on. And so again, we're reducing the overall cut profile length and saving material.
Yes, makes the job a lot quicker to run. So I think that's everything that we wanted to cover there, Alex. Is that correct?
Yep. So hopefully you've seen, obviously we've brought in a basic job. So we've used color mapping to assign the different functions. So you've got your cutting and your engraving functions. Once we've gone through that, we've obviously had a look at a little bit of Ruby networking. So accessing your machine via using your web browser and your local network. Then we've had the job with the different engraving profiles and also the actual profiles feature itself. So get your job set up so it's going to bring your job into the right position and the right settings. Setting your job so you can load it with a tag. In this case, which we showed you with a barcode scanner, how to easily add that to the job itself so you can scan it. And then of course the variable data as well. So there's quite a few different functions in there. If you do want to see, we actually have some really good video content as well. So if you ever head across to rubyhelp.com, pretty much everything we've covered today will be these short little 1-2 minute videos, which will take you through a lot of the Ruby features. And that website is also updated. So when there's a new release of Ruby, there will also be an update to the Ruby Help website. And in there, typically, there will also be things such as videos. So you've got things also like using the Rotary with Ruby and other features like that.
Yeah, it's on our settings screen here. So 3 lines, Ruby help. We click on there, it opens up another web page, and we can see there first steps, video tutorials, any troubleshooting, etc. Tells us all the release notes of the updates that we get from Ruby. We should see another 2 updates this year, I believe. From there,
Yeah.
another great feature is any ideas that you have, and that there's an ideas page as well. If you have an idea that we can add in, we can add that in there. Did that pop up on my screen there, Alex, or not? No. So if we click on
No.
ideas, and Ruby help opens up another screen. Our service ticket also, if you did happen to have any sort of issues with the machine, we can click, instead of ringing throughout our tech desk or emailing, we can click on service ticket, and that creates a ticket for you, where you import any sort of pictures or anything like that straight away from a website. I think someone's asked a question about how to use the rotary or how to set up a job. Is that correct, Alex?
Yeah, we've got a question here. I don't know if you can demo the workflow at all quickly.
Yeah, we'll just use a pre-design that we have pre-set up. Again, you would measure your glass, you would get your diameter. Let's just say it's 50 mil. You'd use your, you'd measure it out correctly so that you've got the right size, etc. So we'll just take this job. We'll just create the job as normal. However, what we'll do is we will click on our rotary attachment. Obviously, we do need a rotary attachment attached for this to work. However, if we just say that glass was 50 mil, and we will put that there, we can rotate that here. And then within this screen here, we can see a little animation of how far it's going to go round the 50 mil diameter glass. If we made that bigger, we can see there it's going to be bigger on the diagram there. Very easy to set up, very easy to do. One of the great features I like within Ruby is that we can, if we go to settings, let's just not save any of them, we can set the 0, position. So for rotary, I like to set it at the start position, so it'll create its job and then go back to the start, so that when you put in another glass for repeatability, it's already back at the start, the way that you put the glass in. So repeatability, I find, is a lot easier by having that ticked. I have it set on 0 position, and for any other job, so that once the job's completed, the head always goes back to the top left-hand corner for 0.
So I've just seen another question about bridges as well. I'm not sure what the bridges function is. I'm not sure if that's the same as like we used to call it tags function, I believe, in job control. So I'll have to do some digging into that, and yeah, I'll find out and see if we have something similar or not.
There's also a question about using the stamped effect on Ruby failed. It wouldn't recognize the data, yet my file was the same as what I used to do a video for this too. Is that just how to use a stamp process, Alex, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I've used the stamp function in this. It'd be interesting to know what you mean by it failed. The workflow is a little bit different in Ruby in the fact that when you get to the stamp stage and you click the stamp effect, it actually creates a new job in the queue.
So if we run through that here, for example, and we had the same diagram here, if we generate a stamp, we can ask it to, if there's any cut lines we want to put on it. We haven't got any cut lines in this case, so let's just do a rectangular cut line. Obviously, we want the stamp to mirror. So if we generate that stamp, it does generate another job for us to use. So we'll just let that generate.
Okay, yeah, so it looks like I've got a comment back. We are talking in terms of bridge function, it's the same as the links function. So I'm not sure. I don't think we've had links updated into Ruby just yet. So I believe it will be on the roadmap because obviously they're bringing across the majority of the functions from job control. So we just have to see if that's going to be into the workflow for later this year at all. Typically at the moment, the team are really trying to work on workflow solutions that are going to make things a lot more easier to optimize. So that's things like the hot folders, which we haven't really covered today, but having a folder on your computer, so your drawing team could just drop any files in. And I believe we should be able to link that soon to our profiles features in the future as well. So you can just drop it into a hot folder and have it across all the right settings. So I'll either use the ideas function in here just to comment about the links function. Anytime our customers can give feedback, it's a lot more impactful for the software development team to prioritize that on their development list.
Yeah, so it's now calculated the job. It's created the job. So this was a was it an SVG file or JPEG for the background? So that's why it's taking a bit of time to do that. So we can see that's the job. That's the job we want. Black to engrave and leave the white. Obviously, this is our job here that we can still go in and edit if we need to once we have this stamp function created. So we would go and create that job. Again, you would choose where to put that on the bed, and then you would click your stamp mode and then choose the relevant material that you're going to use to engrave that with, and therefore in this case it would create us a rubber stamp just like that. We push that to laser or put that in the job queue, and we can then process that from there. So it's slightly different to job control, however within a couple of clicks we can do what we want relatively easily.
Perfect. Well, looks like we haven't got any more questions, so I just want to say thank you for your time. And again, if you have any other questions, do email in, or if it's a feature idea for the software, use the ideas function within Ruby. But yeah, I'm sure we'll continue to do this as we continue to release more features within the software.
Yes, again, like Alex said, we'll continue to do these sort of webinars. We'll probably have another one, the next update, 2.9, when that comes out. We'll make sure that we come together again and do something the same. So please join us for that. And thank you for attending this morning.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.